Coming up today on the Nice Guys on Business.
We were just doing it all for them. So creating the system that I created, that there's actually a lot of people that do it. They don't necessarily know it's my system they're using, but it's been around forever and I've taught it to so many people. That's what it's based on, is just share from your heart who you are, like we do on a podcast, and let the people who love editing, who just geek out over commas, let them come in and help you develop the story and put in all of that kind of stuff.
The Nice Guys on Business are putting the band back together. They're on a mission from God. Go from where you are now to where you could be. Get expert tips to grow your business, to be more productive and more efficient, whether you're trying to build influence, grow your community, or make it rain. Best-selling author of Nice Guys Finish First, Doug Sandler, can lead the way. The Nice Guys on Business is produced by TurnKey Podcast Productions. Now, here's your host, Doug Sandler.
What does it mean to be a best-selling author, and how can it impact your business? And more importantly, how can it impact your life? Well, take it from me. I'm a best-selling author, but man, there was a lot of steps that went along the way. Now, what's your story? How can you get it out to the world and actually do it with emphasis? Well, today, our guest, Steve Kidd, he's a best-selling author himself. He's an entrepreneur. He's a business coach who is on a mission to help others unleash their true potential and achieve success in the field that they are in by writing about what they know and how they do it best. Steve has helped thousands of people share their message. He's here today to share it with you and to teach you how to do what he has done and what we have done together. Steve, welcome to the Nice Guys on Business podcast.
Thanks so much for having me, Doug. I really appreciate being here.
I love having you here. And you just started talking with me before I hit record. And I said, hold on, don't share any of that information before I get to the community, because the backstory and how people got to where they are today, that's the fun part. So because I have 30 years as a DJ as experience, and my partner Strickland, he's got probably just as many years as a band leader with a wedding band called Black Tie. So tell me about your music experience. Tell me about all of that, Steve. I got to know about it before we get into what you do and how you do it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So my grandfather was a minister. My dad was a pastor his whole life.
Hallelujah.
So I grew up in church. I was actually at 18, and then for a lot of the early years of my life, I was the lead singer in a Christian rock band.
Wow.
I also worked my day job. We were doing installing of sound systems in churches. And I worked, because let's be honest, most of us as musicians have to work a job in order to be able to be as cool as we thought we were.
Never was cool. Never was
right.
cool. You probably were cool. I know I wasn't.
I don't know that I was either, because I was also a parent and all those kind of normal day things when I wasn't on stage. But I also worked actually at a Black gospel radio station as a DJ. So that was most of my 20s, is singing all night with the band and, working at the radio station during the day. And
so hold on a second. Again, don't bury the lead. Were you raised as a black guy?
No. I actually started. So WFLT radio in Flint, Michigan. It's still there. In fact, Alice D. Evans that I work with, unless she just retired this year, is still a DJ. Has been there for 30 plus years, probably 40 years now. WFLT was originally the radio station that Casey Kasem got his start on.
Yeah.
It was called WAMM back then. Very first radio station that Casey Kasem was on. They went through a bankruptcy, and the non-Christian owner of the station decided that the best, cheapest way to still be in radio was to become a Christian radio station, because he could pay non-professional DJs and he could play much more inexpensive music and all that. And so he became a Christian radio station. I worked there and was actually then became the board operator for Alice, who is a blind lady, amazing DJ. But that guy, in all of his bigotry, didn't think that a blind person could possibly run a soundboard. So he hired a person, me in this case, to run the board for her.
Gosh.
I actually literally worked myself out of a job because, we were working late nights, like, midnight shift kind of thing. And I taught her how to run everything, and eventually worked myself out of a job. But before that happened, a conglomeration of churches in the city of Flint, Michigan, actually bought the radio station from this man, and it became a Black gospel radio station. And I, for a while, was the only white employee at a Black gospel radio station. I had a Saturday show of my own, and then I was Alice's board operator during the days.
Oh, what a great, so that could be a name of a great podcast for you to start, Alice's board operator. I just think that alone would be great. And Alice probably, if we were doing, I don't know if you're old enough to remember a guy named Paul Harvey, and now you know the rest of the story. Mm-hmm. So yes. Paul Harvey probably wrote a little storyline about Alice. Alice sold out to the Black church conglomerate for $28 million. and she rolled over everybody, blind or not. She has made a mint, and she's doing great today.
Well, Alice D is featured in Martha Reeves, from Martha and the Vandellas. One whole chapter in Martha's book is about her best friend, Alice D. Evans. So
what a great story. Well, thanks for sharing that. I know that has nothing absolutely to do with your career, but yet everything to do with your career, because sharing people's messages, whether it's through music or through gospel or however it is moved through you, it sounds like you made the transition over to the publishing world. How did you make the leap from doing what you were doing to publishing, or how many steps were there in between there?
Well, I've been in sales my whole life. Literally, I did my first sales job at 5, some greeting cards and napkins that my parents had bought for my brothers to sell. And they decided they'd rather mow lawns than do door-to-door sales. I took them, sold the whole bag full of them. Of course, selling when you're 5 is easy, because you just go to the door and be cute and people say yes. But, I've been in sales and marketing my whole life. I started my marketing company in 1988. We were early adopters in internet space, still a marketing company to digital. In fact, the word the internet came after I was working in quote unquote the internet. And I was in that space ever since. And, with all the songs I've written, all the books I've written, all of the writing that I just love to do. In 2007, I helped my then wife and one of my youngest daughters. Actually, they wrote a book about their travels going to see the sites for the movie Twilight. And they blogged about it, and I turned it into a book for them and helped them publish it. And it became a bestseller. In fact, honestly, I still make about $20 a month off of that silly book from 2007 or 8, whatever it was. And, and I just discovered the power and began to add that in to the marketing company that I had. I know now you will never maximize your marketing if you're not a best-selling author. If you can't use that title as part of the course you're doing or who you are or whatever, the marketing languaging just isn't as powerful as it is with it. And so, I began adding that in as one of the things we just did for our people. And then a coach encouraged us, hey, you should have a product that is that for everybody.
Yeah.
And that was late 2015. And, here I am today. I pretty much only exclusively work with authors, even though I'm still a full marketing company. Everything we do is basically for authors these days.
It's so funny because our careers very much were running parallel to each other. In 2015, we started the Nice Guys on Business podcast on the tail end of me just releasing a book, discovered that by me promoting the book on the podcast and actually doing well with the book, being able to use that best-selling title probably led me down a lot of avenues for my production business. And the production business is where I do all my marketing. And now I probably, again, follow a parallel line to what you do in my production business. I teach people how to monetize their podcast. I mean, basically using it as a marketing tool and business development tool. You're teaching the same thing when it comes to books. It was just always challenging for me to put pen to paper. I remember I think he said, my book coach said, you have to write 10 pages a week for 20 weeks and you'll have a 200-page book. By the time you get it edited down, it'll probably be about 165 pages. It was an agonizing 20 weeks. And on the other side of it, I've done almost 1,400 episodes of my Nice Guys on Business podcast, and I still have shit that I want to talk about every time I open up this microphone. Talk to the person in my community that's afraid that they just don't know how to get those thoughts onto paper. And then even if they do, like the hesitation that they have to actually turn it into a book for fear of nobody's going to read it. Talk in that realm for a second.
Absolutely. Oh, Doug, I wish I could have been there to save you from that 20 weeks. Even then, but if you ever want to do another one, we'll help you with that too.
Nice
Um,
deal.
well, in fact, not almost everybody I've ever met needs to be an author. However, almost no one I've ever met. Now, I've met some people that are amazing writers, but almost nobody is really truly a gifted writer.
Right.
There's a big difference between having something to say, i.e., your podcast, and being able to put that to paper in a way that's eloquent and articulate and those kind of things. Every book that I've done, and there's literally thousands upon thousands of people I've worked with. There's a few of them that don't do what I recommend to them, but I always recommend do your book via interview. Whether you interview yourself or you get on a Zoom call with somebody like myself and just simply talk. The early days before we created that product that was for everybody, what I was literally doing was just taking keynote speeches from high-end speakers and turning that hour and a half, 2 hours, whatever, into a book.
Right.
And we were just doing it all for them. So creating the system that I created, that there's actually a lot of people that do it. They don't necessarily know it's my system they're using, but it's been around forever. And I've taught it to so many people. That's what it's based on, is just share from your heart who you are, like we do on a podcast, and let the people who love editing, who just geek out over commas, let them come in and help you develop the story and put in all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, so let's play business partners for a second, because I really love to play this game, because I think this would be a really cool game for us to play, especially that we're doing this live with an audience. Not live, but we're recording it and going to play it back for my audience. Let's assume, for the sake of argument, I've had 150 clients that have run through my doors over the last 5 years. And each one of those has created, I don't know, let's say on average 50 episodes of their show before they either quit or continue to podcast. How do we turn those people into, or me, how do we turn me into your client, so that the next 50 interviews or the previous 50 interviews that I've done, I can turn into a book? Talk to me as my business partner. Give me advice. What would you do?
Absolutely. Oh, yeah. You already have the book. You probably have a 25 book series already written. So first of all, let me give you a statistic. Let's start from statistics and work our way into the practical. Statistically speaking, Amazon has found that in print, if a print book is 100 pages or less, 100 print pages, all right. If it's 100 pages or less, that more than 60% of the people that get the book will read it and finish it. If it goes from 101 to 200 pages, that drops to around 20%. And if it goes above 200 pages, like the typical 350 page book is supposed to be, it's actually less than 3% of the people that ever actually finish the book.
Wow.
And all of us have bookshelves full of books that were good, and we either got what we wanted or we just never had time to finish them. Or we listened to them on audio in the car and we only heard half or 3/4 of it, right?
So I get the feeling the 100-page or less book is the direction that we're going in right now.
Yeah, we would definitely want to go to the 100-page book, because we want to take them step by step. So the concept of a powerful book, and again, keep in mind, I'm looking at this from a marketing standpoint.
Yes, only.
Yeah, is take a point, make it really clear, and give the person a clear next step from that book, whether that be a course, your next book, the training that you do in podcasting, any of those kind of things, just a really easy next step. And you just step them through one step at a time, whether that's the next book or whatever. And you just make it so easy that they just keep moving on with you. And there's never a point where it squeaks on them, because there's always a next thing that they're getting value out of it and they're going with it.
Okay, so hold on, because I'll work through the process here for a second. If I have a show that is related to my product or service, that seems like that would be easy to do, as long as the content is linear. I mean, maybe we can adjust some things after the fact to change some episodes that I did, put it in a different order. But for the most part, does the book have to follow the path of whatever it is that I'm teaching, or can I have someone that injects a story or 2 stories or 5 stories or their experience in doing whatever I'm talking about? So how does that work? How do you share your message so that it comes across linear to the reader?
Well, there's 2 ways for it to come across linear. Number one is when you're as prolific, I can't say that word today.
Right. I'm with
you know what I mean? With content is what you are. We can come in and we can order it. So you may talk about something that's step 3, and then later on we need to put step 2 in, because it just happened to come up in the conversation that step 3 was what was being talked about. And then next week we are actually talking about step 2. That's no problem.
Okay.
So that can happen linearly. The stories are so powerful because they bring reality to it. They bring both the vulnerability of ourselves as well as the experience of others that makes it real and palatable for the person that we're talking to. And sometimes, like, I've got a whole series of books on writing your book and stuff, and it was just where I was inspired at that moment. And now I'm actually in the process of going back and going, hey, this needs some more content in it because this is where it now fits in linearly for how I want the person to walk through it, even though I didn't necessarily do that intentionally. It was just where my heart was that time when I was writing that book.
So if let's say the topic that I'm going to write my book about, which is a topic that would be of huge interest to people that are always starting podcasting, is, hey, how do you make money from this freaking thing? How do you actually turn this into dollars, or a marketing tool, or a business development tool, or lead gen? Does the thin thread that has to lead through each one of those episodes or those chapters in the book, does it have to all lead back to podcast monetization, or can I take some side conversations and, this guy wants to talk about guest acquisition, and this guy wants to talk, and this woman wants to talk about, how to do batch recording, or so how do you put all of these different ideas together? Maybe that's part of the secret of how you do what you do.
Well, it is part of the secret of how we do, but what ends up typically happening in that, because what ends up happening with all of us is we get this great idea for this one thing, and then we write an entire book series of 10 things. I'll give you a perfect example. My first book, which is called 10 Things, ironically. When I originally started writing it, I was writing the free opt-in, give me your email and I'll give you this free, 1-2 page download. 110 pages later, because I had dumped everything on the people that I knew. And I had to go back and I had to reproduce that as 10 books because it was 10 totally separate things.
Right.
That would be
okay.
That would potentially be what would end up being happen is you'd have a squirrel moment and we'd go over there, we'd capture that, but it wouldn't necessarily be part of that core book.
And do you think that you could come up with 100 pages of content for each one of these subjects? And how involved in the process do you get so that as I'm moving forward, I'm creating the content that you think would be sellable, marketable in that book itself?
So keep in mind 100 is the maximum.
Oh, got it.
Stephen King. I mean, you've heard of him, right?
Sure.
Stephen King wrote a book called Guns. It's 25 pages. Okay. So it doesn't have to be that long. I'll give you a perfect example. I never saw the movie, but everybody's heard of the movie Brokeback Mountain.
Yeah.
It was based off of a 56-page book. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde is originally, it's part of an anthology book because they wouldn't print it by itself. It's about 48 pages.
Okay. Understood.
Okay,
so it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, you don't have to hit that 100 pages. That's just your maximum.
All right. What's the process look like? So you got somebody like me. Again, I'm just going to keep using me as the example because that's the one that's sitting in front of me. So You got a guy like me that's creating all this content, but has done nothing with it. I used my podcast to promote a book that I had created prior to launching the podcast. But now that I have this podcast, it seems like I'm wasting opportunity here. Every interview there should be a potential direction of each interview for I could do just a book on marketing and have all of my marketing interviews. I could do a book on finance and have all of my finance. I could do a book on passive income and have a passive income book. I could do a book on podcasting and have a podcasting monetization book. How involved do you get in the process? How does it work?
Well, ultimately, yes, we're a full-scale marketing company. And more than anything, I love spending time with people doing strategy and helping them create, especially with podcasts, what you can find then is when you began to really be intentional about this month we're talking about, or we're going to do these 6 things and we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then repeat 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.
So create a formula.
Yeah. And creating that formula for you, because that's going to make your podcast more powerful. It's not quite so random. It's a little bit more specific, but and then, I have my whole staff of people that can come in and they can listen to the stuff and pull out. And, let's face it, for those of us that have done podcasts for lots of years, we know that there's like 2 minutes of gold nuggets in a show
Right.
that you're
Of
just like,
course.
oh my gosh, we just droned on and on about absolutely nothing. And then there's others where the whole entire 25, 30 hour, whatever, it's like magic was happening the whole time. And we have folks that can just go through that for you. And they can even go further with that and say, okay, so now Doug, here what we need is these things. We need these stories. Like I've got an interview with the lady tomorrow. We did the core of her stuff. And what we're doing tomorrow is she's just going to tell me all of the case studies and stories of all these hundreds and hundreds of people that she's worked with,
Mm-hmm.
so that we have real world stuff to go around with the practical, this is how I do it and this is what I do kind of thing.
So let's talk about the process itself, because I'm the kind of guy that if somebody says, oh, we have a DIY program and, we'll coach you through it and you're just going to do it, you may as well tell me that I'm going to have to lift 1,000 pounds in my next, set at the gym. It's not going to happen. I'm the kind of guy that likes to stay in my lane, and my lane is I can create all the content, but I can't do any of the I don't want to deal with Amazon. I don't want to deal with editing. I don't want to deal with the book cover and the design and the layout and all that stuff. How involved do I get in that? Or are you doing it all?
We're doing it all. So your involvement is number one, content and intent.
Mm-hmm.
So the first thing we want to do is we want to talk strategy. What's your intent? Where we want to lead the people to? I need to know what courses do you already have, and or what courses do the course creator that I work with need to help you create? Either way is fine. It's just wherever you're at, but we need to understand that. So we start there, and then we just begin to take the content for you. And we're going to, it's so much easier where you already are putting out the content, because then I just immediately send that information to a story development editor who gleans the stuff out of it, because we know what the intent of that book is,
Mm-hmm.
and begins to put it together. And then when we have a skeleton structure for the book, we send it to you with notes of, hey, Doug, here's what we need more of. In some cases, because you have such a back catalog, you're going to be like, oh, here's 5 more episodes, plug those in there and we'll have 99% of what you ask for. In other cases, it means you're going to write a sentence or two here or there. But, we're talking through the whole process. If you work more than 5 or 10 hours, you're not trusting the system. It's not that you can't do it by yourself, but it's intended to be for people who are just too busy and just aren't going to do it themselves. And then the editors come in and the graphics people and all of that to do all of that for you.
All right. So, and I'm assuming at some point we could even align this with those that are getting started with our services, depending on how you're priced and how that stuff works, to align your with every podcast launch for your, maybe not your first 10 episodes because they're just getting their podcast feet under them, but the next 10 episodes or the next 20 episodes, here's where we make a concerted effort to create a book based upon your topic, and we're going to create a book with the content that you're creating. Does that fit well?
Oh yeah. And we can do that strategy session along with you while you're helping them get set up for their podcast, because I know, iTunes, that first 30, 60 days, they will put you at the new releases and you get more downloads than you're going to get, when you've been around for 5 years and it's just like, it's another guy that's got a podcast. So those first 10 episodes, we want to maximize that because of the exposure we're going to get. We want, if we can be intentional, then if we can set up, let's say there's 5 things that's their steps, you do 1 and then 2 and then 3, we can have it be, 10 episodes of going through that twice with whomever is their guest or whatever they have on that. So yeah, we can come right alongside you right from the very beginning and then take those and be pouring books out from it.
Really interesting. I mean, I've worked with a number of publishers before, and it usually goes from the perspective of the publisher has somebody that has written a book. The book now needs to be turned into a podcast, or they want to get additional exposure, so they start a podcast. It never has worked the other way, where I start with the client, we work directly with the client, and we help them create content for a book based upon the podcast launch itself. So it is very interesting. I'm really curious in how we can maybe do something together. Sometimes I have guests that come on the show that's like, hey, it's a great fit. You offer a good product or service. Let's introduce it to my audience. And then there's a great fit. What you do is so complementing the stuff that we already do without competing at all.
Right. I'd love that. Yeah, absolutely. And I love radio and podcasters and all of that. So it'd be a lot of fun too.
Well, let's figure this out. Let's figure this
All
out.
right.
So, Nice Guy Community, this is what we have done. See, so the idea behind this whole thing is exactly what's going on with Steve today is that podcasting for me has been the greatest business development tool. Now, business development could be more than just having a retail conversation with Steve, like, hey, Steve, you want to start a podcast? Yeah, that's a great opportunity to put people into our products or services. But even better than that, the win for a joint venture or business partnership is even greater. And if you're listening to this, you've just listened. I mean, Steve, did we pre-plan any of this shit that we just talked about?
No.
Based upon what you're hearing right now, does it sound like it would be a good idea for us to try to figure out how we can figure
absolutely.
out? Okay.
And a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it.
I am with you. And again, Nice Guy Community, this is what the power of podcasting as a business development tool can do for you as well. And if you've listened to this and you heard us just go through all of the shit that we just went through, no pre-planning, there was none of this. Steve literally was somebody that reached out to me through an agency that wanted to place him on our show because he's got a good product that he's marketing. And if you think you have a good product that you're marketing to, one of two things: start a fucking podcast like I've talked about, or get your ass on my show so that we can have the same conversation that me and Steve just had, because there's gold in what's about to happen after we hit stop on the record. And we'll come back and we'll do more case studies about this. Steve, if someone does not believe that, but they just want about the podcasting partnership with publishing, but just wants to publish a book, have them get to you. How do they get to you? What's the best way?
So let's do it really easy for them. Let's give them a free gift. People
Okay.
love free stuff.
Cool.
Okay. If you go to ongoingwealthguide.com, that's ongoingwealthguide.com. It's a simple 5-step. It's not 110 pages like the first download I did. It's 2 pages. Included in that, though, and here's the real challenge for you. There's 5 things. And if you follow those 5, you will have not necessarily that you're going to have massive amounts of money in your bank, but you will have the ability to be able to continually market and move yourself. But included in that is a link to my Write Your Bestseller in 1 Hour workshop that I've done thousands upon thousands of times. It's free. You click on that, go listen to it. I've got people that have written 20, 30 books just from what I share in that. It's an active working thing. And then I've got some free giveaways. I've even got a link on the thank you page. You can schedule 15 free minutes to talk to me and challenge me and say, Steve, I don't believe you. So yeah, go to ongoingwealthguide.com, get the free gift, and, I'll help you out any way that I can. I'd love to.
That is awesome. Again, Nice Guy Community, ongoingwealthguide.com. We'll make sure we put a link in the show notes for that. Steve, this rocked. I really do appreciate it. I know we don't have a lot of time today, but in the time that we spent together, it was very beneficial for me. I'm hoping it was as good for you as it is for me.
Absolutely.
Thanks,
well, the
brother.
other thing I'll say to your people is, hey,
Yeah.
Contact Doug and tell him I want to be part of that new system that you guys just created, and we'll make it work for you.
I love it. Thanks for being here, Steve. Thanks for sharing your message.
Thanks.
A Nice Guy Community, never underestimate the power of nice. Special thanks to our guest. All of his information will be right there in the show notes. Steve O'Brien, go ahead and take us out of here.
For the Nice Guys on Business, I'm Steve O'Brien. Just when I thought I was out, they pull me back in.